You are welcome to yet another episode of HN What's Your Say? The #1 listening show where we discuss real issues with real people like you. We are still featuring R. Kelly. Real name, Robert Sylvester Kelly. Also known as the R&B King. In the early days of the Surviving R. Kelly documentary, numerous allegations were made by multiple women against the R&B King. Among the accusers who took part in the infamous series were parents to some of these women, who claimed R. Kelly had kidnapped their children and was holding them against their will. An allegation which the government prosecutors based on to add trafficking charges onto their indictment, where they suggested that R. Kelly illegally held these women against their parents' will, and without their knowledge transported them across state lines for illicit reasons. The only way for this to sound real and serious was for the parents to come out and claim they didn't know any of this, and that they were not in agreement with R. Kelly about it, because if they did, it would cease to be trafficking because the real reasons for travel were known and were certainly not illegal. In our previous video, we highlighted on how some of this alleged transporting was being done by the mothers of these women themselves, and how the reasons for travel were not immoral behaviors like the indictment suggests. When women are trafficked, they don't go taking pictures at the beach having fun like they are on holiday. Azriel herself mentioned in her New York trial testimony that she was driven by her own mother across the state of Florida by night to meet with R. Kelly, and she also told the court how her mother paid her flight fares whenever she went to meet Robert. We also indicated that these women were adults when they made these travels, as they always simply presented their IDs and off they went. Besides, there is no such evidence to prove they were underage like the government wants us to believe. And even if they were underage, the purpose of travel must be illicit reasons if trafficking must count. Most importantly though, we have clarified that the reasons for these flights were completely formal. For example, one of the women Kelly was charged for did travel to California to attend Oscar Awards with Robert. How is that trafficking? In many other cases, R. Kelly's girlfriends who were clearly adults then would travel with him when he made tours so they didn't have to remain at home bored. And how is this trafficking, for God's sake? The prosecutors, however, want us to believe that these events tantamount in Mann Act violations by R. Kelly. And they duly pinned these rather ambitious charges on him in their New York indictment. They want us to believe that the women were underage when these events took place, and that the reason their parents drove them to R. Kelly and purchased air tickets for their daughter's travels was to go engage in illicit behavior with Robert. Which parent would do that? It's just not possible. These parents know well why their daughters traveled, how old they were, and they know that it was never for such reasons. Otherwise they wouldn't be involved in the delivery process and in the purchase of air tickets for their own underage daughters to go meet with Robert unsupervised. But because at the moment they have been hired by a master they don't even know to take down R. Kelly, of course with a promise of an appetizing amount in form of restitutions to share amongst themselves, they now claim they never knew. And that they were never a part of it. New image leaks, however, show the mother of Joycelyn Savage, who goes by the name Jocelyn Savage, posing for a group photograph with her daughters and R. Kelly right at their center. Something that is contrary to her claims and those of other parents involved in this project intended to take down the R&B King. While R. Kelly was accused for enticement following claims that he did whatever he could to attract these women to himself, it appears the parents are the ones who looked him up and were eager to have him as a boyfriend to their own daughters, who had certainly crossed over to the age of 18, some even a lot older than that. It is known that some of the women in the documentary who made sure to actively participate in the defamation campaign had come to R. Kelly when they were way over 30 years old. Kitty Jones, for example, was 32, Asante McGee confesses she was 35, and Lanita Carter, who is currently tormenting R. Kelly with Chicago state charges, was 25. Why the Surviving R. Kelly documentary would be allowed on air with such adult women defaming a man they forced themselves onto is hard to understand. Strangely though, the government has gone as far as sentencing a one Donald Russell who thought it important to try and stop its premiering in a Chicago theater, making us believe the government is in a racket to destroy R. Kelly's career and will not tolerate anyone who tries to stop this. It also makes us believe that, like Sony, the government could have been equally behind the publishing of the deceitful docuseries. Having proven that indeed the women were lying about their age and experiences with R. Kelly like Lisa Van Allen did, This gives Donald Russell a good cause to try and stop the premiering of such an illegal and defaming TV show. In fact, it should have been the government to do this, but until now, the illegal TV show is still airing on streaming platforms and gaining viewership by the day and the watch of the same government. The leaked picture, on the other hand, is proof that the parents were well aware of what was going on with R. Kelly and their daughters, and that they were okay with it because they knew their daughters were of age, and they knew well whatever was happening between them was nothing illegal. And so they went as far as delivering their own daughters to him, which was generally not trafficking. It wasn't until they saw an opportunity to gain something from R. Kelly, considering they had failed with blackmail, that they decided to team up with the government, which on the other hand is working to the satisfaction of his record company Sony to destroy the R&B king, and hopefully have him locked away in prison. One may wonder what the New York jury based on to determine R. Kelly guilty for trafficking, considering the total lack of evidence to support this makes it all sound like a joke. How can what I just described in this video even be equated to trafficking? There is no doubt that some of these charges were only introduced into the New York indictment in an attempt to criminalize R. Kelly, but the reality is no one was trafficked and the charges should be dropped. The leaked images also demystify the allegations that R. Kelly enticed these women. If he had to entice women to come to him, what was their mother doing with them backstage taking pictures with the R&B king with his daughters? This is proof that the women were brought to him by their own parents and that he never had to entice them to come to him. It even sounds rather weird to hear claims that a big-time celebrity such as R. Kelly would have to entice women into being with him. If anything, it's women who usually do their best to entice celebrities of his caliber to date them, not the other way round. The Chicago charges of enticement are therefore lacking in context and should also be dropped. Moreover, these charges were twinned with the coercing charges for which he was found innocent, but the judge decided to quickly sever the two to allow for a guilty verdict, an illegal move that completely disregards the Chicago indictment. Instead of declaring a mistrial, which was appropriate, Judge Leinenweber preferred to override what the indictment said and issued an all-guilty verdict for the combined charge. This reveals a lot about what the trial court's position regarding the entire case was. They had to do all in their capacity to make sure R. Kelly is found guilty. That was their job description. According to Mercy Tackle. So everything these people accused and judged him for wasn't true after all, and people who followed blindly believed it. I am actually not a fan of his but loved one of his songs, The Storm Is Over. The first time I heard of R. Kelly's jail stories on Miss Sylvia's page, I couldn't believe my ears. At that moment I felt in my spirit, this man is being accused falsely and charged for something he had not done. I never ever in my life believed those crooks, and I continued to pray for him. This industry is indeed so cruel and friends hard to trust. Why would they treat a human being like that, knowing well it's all premised on nothing else but lies? Sometimes I wonder how these women and prosecutors eat and sleep knowing they are accusing R. Kelly falsely. If you wish to take part in a live interview on this channel discussing any of these topics, let us know by emailing us on sashahnnewsroom@gmail.com for scheduling. That is all we had for you today on HN What's Your Say? To keep updated whenever we post a new video, subscribe to this channel now. Also remember to hit the bell icon and enable notifications. And feel free to share your opinions with us in the comment section below, and let us know if you would like us to publish your views in our next release. We value all our subscribers' opinions.